morning, Year 7. We find ourselves again in the same situation that we were after the first half term, and that we are doing some home learning for the foreseeable future. I'm really confident that you guys know what my expectations are now regarding the work, but I put on the top in the green box, please make sure you read it, so I'll go through it just now so that everyone is clear. Please keep all of your work together. You must bring everything in to go into your history book when we are eventually back at school. Do not throw work away. Do not assume that because you've sent me a picture of a piece of work on Show My Homework that you no longer need to keep it. Keep everything, guys. Date it, make sure it's got a proper title, keep it all together nice and neatly, bring it all in with you when you are back. If you are using a computer to do your work on, you must be able to print the work out. If you can't do that, you need to be able to email it to your school account, and then when you are back in school, you can go to a computer room and you can print the work out and bring it to me then. I can't print things for you guys, okay? There's just too many students for me to be able to do that with. So if you're working on a computer and you won't have access to being able to print it, I would strongly suggest that you do it on paper. So let's get into our lesson. We're starting our new unit. It's only a short little unit. It should cover us for the whole time that we're off with our home learning, if we're back when we're supposed to be. So title for today is Who Healed the Sick in Medieval Times? Okay, got two lesson objectives. So number one is to identify a variety of medical treatments from the Middle Ages, and two is to assess the theories, which is the ideas, that means the ideas behind the causes of diseases at the time. So if you can just pause me and get those written down, and just very quickly, if you remember the picture on the bottom left there, where I've put look out for this, that is your camera picture. When you see that, that task is the one that you need to photograph and send me a picture of on Show My Homework, or you can send it via email, and I'll put my email address at the end. So if you pause me now and get your title and your lesson objective written down. So just a quick starter here, guys, for you to just have a think about. You don't need to write anything down, just have a little bit of a think about it. So what do you do to make hiccups stop when you get them? So people do all different things. There are lots of different things, and we call those different remedies, okay? And so have a think, what is it that you specifically do? And where did you learn that from? Who told you about that remedy, and does it work as well? So you don't need to write anything down, just have a little bit of a think about the answers to those questions. So the next 5 slides are just me talking, so there aren't any specific tasks. You can see on this slide where I've got the yellow box where it says watch link 1 in the lesson description on Show My Homework. So if you go into Show My Homework where I've written what you need to do today, you'll see the link there to this clip. It's only a quick little funny clip. It's from a really good TV show called Blackadder, which your parents probably remember, but you wouldn't know. But it's got the guy from Mr. Bean in it, and it's very funny. So we're going to start thinking about who treated people during medieval times, all right? So today, if you're unwell, you go to the doctor, okay? That's about it. If you are sick, that is where you go. However, back then there were different types of people that people went to. So the first one that I want to talk to you about is the wise woman. So it was very expensive to go and see a doctor, okay? So a lot of people treated themselves at home. Okay, sometimes people would go to the local wise woman to ask for advice, and the wise woman sort of knew about first aid and natural herbal remedies. So a remedy is something that will cure you of something. Okay, so the wise woman sort of have knowledge about that, and they use quite traditional treatments that have been passed down to them by word of mouth, so people before them, and also things that have been written down in books. Okay, so that was really the function of the wise woman. And then moving on, we've got next is our quacks, all right, quacks. So the quacks were really quite dishonest people, okay? You can see from the picture there, you've got a little stage that's been set up. So this quack is actually travelling around the local villages, and they're showing what fantastic remedies and things they can do to cure people of illness. All right, so they really took advantage of people's lack of knowledge. All right, people back then just didn't know what caused diseases, that they had no knowledge of germs or anything like that. They just didn't know. And people were scared of becoming unwell because often very simple things that we would be able to cure now, they wouldn't be able to cure. So people were scared of becoming unwell. And quacks really played on that fear. All right, so they used that fear to their advantage, and the fact that people didn't know much, that gave them the opportunity to make stuff up, to make money from it, basically, okay? So they tricked people into buying treatments that really didn't work. They sold their potions and their remedies as they travelled through villages and towns, all right? And they often didn't work, most of the time they didn't work, or they actually made people even more unwell. So you really wanted to try and avoid going to a quack if you could. And our next one we've got our apothecaries, okay, apothecaries. So they were specialist medicine makers, all right, and they used lots of plants and herbs to be able to treat people. They prescribed things such as poppies, as in poppies, the red flower, yeah, crushed down, willow leaves. A willow is obviously a type of tree, so leaves from a tree, garlic, all right. So lots of natural remedies, all right, and herbal things, and they'd mix lots of potions and things like that. Today, we know that some of the things that they prescribed back then did actually work. So willow and poppies actually contain natural painkillers, all right, and garlic kills bacteria. Okay, if you're feeling unwell with a cold, okay, or something, they always say have a clove of garlic. All right, so it kills that sort of bacteria that comes with having a cold. So an apothecary was sort of a trained person who would use plants and herbs, natural things, and you could go and see them, and for a small fee they'd mix up a potion to try and treat you. All right, and then we've got our doctors. Now, don't be fooled into thinking that that picture of that very handsome doctor on the right-hand side is what the doctors look like, okay? Because obviously that is nothing like what they look like at the time. Now, the problem with doctors back then in medieval times was they cost a lot of money. All right, now we can go to the doctor for free, and we're very, very lucky, all right, that we have that in England, the National Health Service, the NHS, all right? And we can do that for free. All we have to do is pay for a prescription charge if they prescribe us something. Back then, doctors, it cost a lot of money to visit them. So it's really only something that was available to rich people. So the doctor would have spent about 7 years or so studying at university. And what they learned at their university was they learned by reading books and listening to lectures. A lecture is like a lesson. But a lecture that you would have at university, so a little bit different to a lesson because someone is mostly just talking at you and you're taking notes. That's kind of what it is. So they actually finished university a lot of the time, these medieval doctors, without even having to treat a real person. Now, today, doctors, they go through a huge amount of training, and they're based in hospitals, and they're trained in hospitals, they're trained in operations and all those things. Medieval doctors didn't get any of that until they became qualified, and that was it. They were set out to treat people for the first time, okay? And lots of the books that they used to study from in university were written by ancient Greeks, all right, but they also studied ideas from Muslim religions, Indian and Chinese worlds, all right, so they were trying to bring all of these ideas together, okay, and their treatments were mostly based on the 4 humours, all right, but there's a bit more on that later, so don't worry, we do come back to the 4 humours, so it doesn't make sense at the moment, but I promise you later it will do. Okay. And then we've got our last slide before we're going to move on to a few questions. So we've got the role that the church played in medicine. Okay, so we've got our lovely monk there, you can see. So the church, they started to open up medical schools, and they used the ideas of this guy called Galen, who we'll talk about a bit more in a minute. All right, and lots of priests and monks were actually doctors, and they did do things to help the sick, but they also explained things using supernatural explanations. And what I mean by that is because they didn't know how you became unwell, no one really did, all right, that didn't come until later, that they would say, well, the reason that you have become unwell is because you've committed a sin. Okay, so they would use sort of supernatural explanations, and well, it's God. God is punishing you. He's punishing all of us. Okay, so things like the plague and things, that was, they sort of blamed it on the fact that people were sinning. Okay, so the church did play an important role in medicine. They opened up these medical schools and they did help people. Okay, poor people as well, you know, they tended to the sick and things. But the way that they explained why people got unwell really had quite a religious tone to it, and they always kept trying to turn it back to religion. So you've got 4 really simple questions here that I'd like you to just answer, guys. Please make sure that you're answering in full sentences. For example, question 1, describe the difference between a wise woman and a quack. A perfect opening sentence for that would be, the difference between a wise woman and a quack is. Okay, please really concentrate on writing in full sentences for me. So pause this here and press play when you're ready to carry on. So we're just going to speak about why people think that they got sick, and this is going to lead into what your main task is going to be for today. Okay, so I spoke briefly about the idea that people really didn't have any idea as to why they got sick. Okay, now we know that it's to do with bacteria and all those sorts of things can make you unwell. Eating bad food, being unclean, lots of different things. But back then, they really didn't know. So they didn't know much about real causes of illness at all, actually. All right, but there were several popular ideas. So these were ideas that most people sort of thought caused illness. Okay, so I'll start at the top. So you've got the position of the planets is to blame for most common illnesses. The study of how the stars and planets might make an impact on our lives is called astrology. Okay, so they actually thought that the way the planets were lined up was a cause to make you unwell, and that if the planets got out of alignment, that could make people unwell. Next one along at the top, it says the body contains 4 humours or liquids. If these get out of balance, you become ill. So we're going to talk about the 4 humours in a moment, all right? And there's a little bit of a diagram for you to copy down. And then below that, we've got evil spirits. Okay, so evil spirits cause disease. Tiny worms cause disease, and these worms live in your body. God sometimes sends disease to punish a person. Bad smells are the cause of some diseases. And then you've got God also sent disease and illness to test our faith, okay, to see if we were a good Christian. So what I would like you to do, this is going to be your main task for the day, and you can see the camera picture there, so this is the one that I would like you to send me. So you're going to draw out a table like the one that's on the slide in front of you now. Okay, very simple. You're going to then go back to those speech bubbles and copy each piece of information. So each speech bubble is going to be copied into the correct side of your table. So you can either put it in the natural side, and that is things about the natural world or the human body. And then you've got supernatural, which is anything to do with God, spirits, magic, or astrology. All right, so you need to put all of those 7 speech bubbles into your table. Okay, once you've done that, you can press play. So just to summarise it for you guys, hopefully you got it all right. If you didn't, you'll need to obviously edit your table to make sure that it's right at this point. Okay, so we've got our supernatural side. So God sometimes sends disease to punish someone. God sent diseases and illness to test our faith, the position of the planets, and evil spirits cause disease and mental illness. And then our natural, so things that are to do with the human body or the natural world. So the body contains 4 humours, and these are liquids, and if these get out of balance, you become unwell. Bad smells, okay, bad smells that exist in the air, all right, and tiny worms cause disease. So it's just a little bit here about the 4 humours, okay? So I'm not going to read all of these boxes out. I'm going to rely on you guys to pause and read that out yourself. But it's about how they would test your wee, all right, which was a big thing that they did. So what I would like you to do once you've read the information is to copy out that little poster that's on the wall in the picture there, the 4 humours, and you need to label it exactly as it is on the poster for me, please, okay? And then you can move on when you are ready, but I will leave you to do this yourselves. Alright, so this is just a little bit of a fun task. We would have obviously done it in class, but I've had to edit it a little bit, but I thought it would still be fun for you guys to sort of do it at home. So you've got 4 pictures there, A, B, C and D, and you've got 4 words written there. So you've got purging, trepanning, bloodletting and leeches. What I'd like you to have a think about, you don't need to write anything down, is just have a think about which word goes with which picture. Okay, you might not know, you might know some of them, alright, but have a go, see if you can match up A, B, C and D with the 4 words. Okay, so hopefully you had a good guess, so let's see if you guys were right. So we've got picture A. So picture A, that was bloodletting, and if you have a good look at the guy's arm there, you can see there is literally blood being let out of his arm. And this was a really popular method for curing illness back there, right? So to bleed the person out. Obviously, we now know if you lose too much blood, it's not very good. It's not very good for you at all. Your body needs to have a certain amount of blood to be able to function. However, back then, because they thought that bad blood was the cause of a lot of illness, they wanted to get rid of that blood. Okay, and the idea would be that that would make you better. All right. And then we've got B. So B is the lovely picture of that man with what looks like a scalpel or something very sharp being put in his skull. Okay, so that is trepanning. All right, trepanning, and that was a really, really nasty procedure that was done a lot. Okay, and that would cure you of things like headaches. If you've got a headache, let's cut the top of your head off, and that will, release your headache. That was also what was used if they thought that people were unwell because of bad spirits. So making a hole at the top of the head would allow the bad spirits to escape out, and the person would then become better. Okay, so that was a really popular method that was done a lot. C, we have got purging. Purging, okay, so the idea being that you are unwell because of something in your body to do with your 4 humours, so you must get everything out of your body. So the person was basically force-fed lots and lots and lots of water to the point where their stomach can't manage it anymore, and they are then made very, very sick, all right, until all of the bad stuff that's in their body that's making them unwell comes out via the sick, all right, so not particularly nice. And then we've got D, which I'm assuming a lot of you would have got, okay, they are leeches. Again, very, very popular. Leeches would suck out illness, all right, and they'd suck your blood, so it's kind of similar to bloodletting, but being done by leeches. It was very painless, and they didn't suck a huge amount of blood, all right, but you can see you put a leech on. It's very, very small, and by the end of the time that it's finished sucking your blood, it's a lot fatter and a lot bigger because it's filled with the blood. All right, so that was very popular, and they prescribed leeches for everything. Oh, I've banged my finger. I'll put a leech on it. I've got an earache. Oh, put a leech on it. All right, so leeches were really, really quite popular as well. All right, so what I would like you to do now is just check that you know what the descriptions are for the 4 words that we've just spoken about, okay? So I'd like you to just have a go. You don't need to write anything down at the moment, but on the next slide I am going to ask you to copy the descriptions and the words out in full, all right, as your final task for today. But have a go, see if you can match them up yourself, see what you can remember. All right, so you can see there we have got our 4 descriptions and the words, and we're going to match them up. So we have got the first one, bloodletting, making the patient bleed so that their bad blood would disappear and then their body would be in balance again. Purging, giving you something to eat to make you vomit or to go to the toilet a lot, and this let the badness that was making you unwell out of your body. Trepanning or trepanning, which is drilling a hole into the skull to let out the evil spirit that were giving you a headache and making you feel unwell, which people normally didn't survive because you can't go drilling into people's skulls, because if you drill too far you go into their brain, and that's not good. And then you have got the leeches, and they were used to suck out the blood from the body to get rid of the bad blood. Okay, so I would like you to copy out the descriptions and the words for me so that they're all in there in full. And then there's another little link. I've just realised it says watch link 1. It's not, it's link 2. Okay, so please make sure you're watching link 2, and it's just a really interesting little clip, and it talks about the different types of medieval medicine. Okay. All right, guys, and we are very nearly finished. We've just got this and a true or false questions to go. So I want you to have a little bit of a look at that picture and have a look at this question. It says, what type of place might you visit today that has that sign outside of it? All right. So it is a barber's, okay, which is where traditionally boys now go. Girls tend to go to the hairdressers to get their hair done, but boys for shorter hair, or for anyone with shorter hair, okay, they would go to a barber's to have their hair cut. So that red and white sign there, all right, actually goes back to medieval times when barbers were actually also surgeons, if you can even believe that. So not only were they trained to cut hair, they could also operate on people. So they were cheaper than a doctor, and they could do things like removing boils or teeth, as well as cutting your hair, all right. The red on the pole in the picture, that represents blood, and the white represents bandages. So any time now that you see those red and white signs, that is what it actually means. It's going back to medieval times, so it's pretty interesting. Alright, so let's have a go at our true or false, guys. We know how this normally works in class, so if I just read the one out, you can make a guess as to what you think, and then it will go either red or green. So the first one, we've got doctors were free, so everyone went to see them when they were unwell. Okay, and that is definitely false. Alright, doctors were not free, they were expensive. Number 2, people believed that planets caused diseases. And that is correct, okay? People did think that planets were one of the reasons why people became unwell. Number 3, trepanning is when you get rid of the bad blood in the body by letting it out. Have a good think about this one. I'll go quiet for a few seconds, but you can pause me if you'd like to. So, trepanning, that is false. Okay, that is false. That is bloodletting, is when they let the bad blood out of the body. Number 4, people believe that God caused disease as a punishment. Okay, and you should have said true for that one. Number 5, quacks were cheap. Quacks were cheap doctors who could make you better. So quacks were cheap doctors who could make you better. All right, and that is definitely wrong. They were not doctors. They had no medical training, and they often made you more unwell. Number 6, doctors used the 4 humours to work out what was wrong with someone. And you should have put green for that. Okay, that was the little diagram that you drew out there. Number 7, barber surgeons could remove rotten teeth and cut your hair. That is true, as we have just discovered. Number 8, the colour of your wee was very important. Okay, and that is true because they used that to diagnose what was wrong with you, depending on how dark or how light it was. And then number 9, purging was when you had your skull drilled into. Have a good think about this one. Okay, and that is false. Okay, it was trepanning is where you have your skull drilled into, and purging was the one where you're given lots of food and water, so to make you sick or to make you go to the toilet a lot. So well done, guys. Please make sure you send me your picture of the one with the photo camera on it, and I will speak to you again soon.